The Appalachian Trail through hiking class of 2025 has come together to provide advice, support, and encouragement to this year's upcoming through hikers or any through hikers in the future. I asked my fellow hikers that I hiked with on my through hike to give any advice that they felt would be beneficial to an aspiring through hiker or advice that they wish they had been given prior to starting their through hike. And this is what we came up with. I'm very proud of this effort of all of us joining forces. Stay tuned to the very end to get my advice. And if anything, my hope is that even if there is no advice that you find useful, which would be unlikely, but even if that's true, I hope that you walk away feeling supported and encouraged from us, because you are now part of one of the most supportive communities in existence. We're here for you. We're rooting for you. We can't wait to see your summit pictures. In the meantime, maybe take some notes and enjoy.
What's up, friends? Jude here, class of 2025. Woo woo. First off, congratulations on deciding and putting in all of the work that's required to even start this thing. It is going to be one of the most challenging and most rewarding experiences in your life, plain and simple. And on that note, I wanted to hand on a little advice passed down from my good friend Redbeard, who hiked previous to me. I met him multiple times on my trail hike, a true good friend. And this is what he told me, and I want to pass on to all of you. He said, you're going to see tons of mountain peaks. You're going to see tons of beautiful views in the mountains. It's going to be amazing. But make sure you take pictures of the people you meet along the way. Make sure you take those group shots, those group selfies. Be weird, be whatever, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the trail, the views you'll remember, you'll see some of those, but what you really want to remember are the people you met along the way, because those are now your great friends. You want to look back to when you first met up with them and you first saw them towards the end of the trail. Y'all want to have those photos to remember the people that you hiked with for maybe only a day or two, or maybe even just a few hours, or the person that gave you a hitch into town, or the wonderful folks doing trail magic. I always took photos with trail magic, but trail magic folks. But definitely take photos with the people that you're at. Take videos of the people. None of us mind, nobody on the trail minds. And if you're worried about it, just ask. And I promise you it'll be worth it. At the end of my hike, I went to put together my thank yous and stuff like that, and they're just full of all the photos that I have of all the people that I met on the trail, and it warms my heart every time I get to look at it. Congratulations again on your determination to get this far. You've got a long road ahead of us, but here's the coolest part about it. You're now part of the through hiking community, and we love you just as everybody else loved us on the trail. Let people help you, and you're going to do just fine. Take care of yourselves, my friends. See you.
Hello, I'm Ratatouille. My recommendation for anyone attempting the AT this year would be to not stress as much about the whole gear side of things. I really tried to dial everything in to have the setup before I started, and what I found out was not only can you never know, so why even bother to a degree, but also things change. You find out what your priorities are, carrying more, carrying less, having problems with your knees or not, enjoying your luxuries or not. So your whole setup will change probably a couple times. I don't know, or I know few people who really stuck with their setup from beginning to end. So that's my big advice, and don't be afraid to, change stuff up, try stuff out, send stuff home, get stuff sent from home, and roll with the punches. Hope you have fun this year. Bye-bye.
Hey, I'm Boo Boo. Three pieces of advice I would give to future hikers. One is don't feel like you have to overly plan when you're starting your hike. I had a spreadsheet with like every single day from mid-March to June, planned out where I'd go, how many miles, blah, blah, blah. All of that went out the window almost as soon as I got on trail. When I first started on trail, I kept trying to force myself to stay with that plan until eventually I realized this was hurting me and not helping me, and I just had to let the plan go. So I feel like this is common advice that people get, is like, don't overly plan. But for the over planners out there, like I was, it was impossible for me to even understand what that meant. So I'd say if you're an over planner, plan the first week of your trail journey to help you feel comfortable, like you know what you're doing to get out there. But be willing to adjust, be flexible, be willing to throw that plan out the window, and certainly don't plan beyond a week. Second piece of advice I'd give is everybody fearmongers constantly about everything on the trail. Like, oh, wait till you get to the Smokies. Wait till you get to the Whites. Wait till it rains, 6 days in a row and you've got trench foot or whatever else. Try not to let that get to you. Take each day one step at a time and one adventure at a time without letting other people's kind of perceptions of what's ahead kind of get in your head and change the experience for you. Last piece of advice is I'm gluten-free, and I think it's totally possible to resupply on trail, but it was challenging for me, and I did end up mail dropping myself packages more than I think some of the other people in my group who weren't gluten-free did. But it was really kind of fun to work with my mom and my wife on what they're going to send me and when, and it takes a little bit more planning, but it really worked out great, and I always had a lot of different options. So totally possible if you got dietary stuff to make it work super easily by resupplying on trail and mail drops.
I've got 3 tips, and if you stay all the way to the very, very end, maybe a bonus tip if I think of one. They're all about food. 1, know how many calories are in your first resupply and roughly how many calories are for each meal. Along the way, you don't need to keep counting calories, but if you know you're consistently hungry in the first couple days or the first couple weeks after lunch, then you know, hey, I've got 700 calories right now for lunch. Maybe I'll bump that up to 1,200 or 1,300 calories, and so I can go and find a bag of chips, or maybe I'll eat a little bit more cheese. So that's a helpful baseline to keep. If you just know what you're starting with, you can adjust from there. The second is don't worry if you lose some weight and you feel nauseous in the first week. Your body's going through a bunch of changes. It's hard to eat. Try to get yourself to eat as much as you can, but also it's almost inevitable that you'll be a little nauseous from all the lifestyle changes and food changes that you're experiencing. It's totally normal, and it'll fade over time. If you do lose a lot of weight, though, probably bump your food up, because it's really important to fuel yourself. And then the third tip is, as you're going around the grocery store before you leave, just shopping for your day-to-day stuff, note hiker foods and what the quantities are in them, and try and find things that come in smaller quantities or individual quantities that you might be interested in. Because one of the mistakes that I made is I just bought the stuff that I wanted, and I didn't really recognize that I was going to waste a lot of it if I didn't bring it with me. So I would get a pack of 10 cookies, and then I would donate 6 to the hiker box, which is great because now the hiker box has more cookies for other people. But if you do that for long enough, you're just going to lose a lot of your budget to food that is not going toward your trail. And this took me to like Virginia or Pennsylvania to figure out. So food is really, really important. I can't stress enough. You have to fuel yourself correctly, especially when you don't want to, and make adjustments to the heat. That's my bonus tip. I did think of a bonus tip. The bonus tip is when it gets really hot, eat more carbs, because protein is harder for yourself to digest. So if you can have more carbs, you're still getting those calories in. But if you're eating big chunks of protein, because it's hard to digest, all the blood flow is going to cooling your body. And so it's not going to digestion. And so just shift closer to carbs and bread and candy and all that stuff. Okay, that's it. Have fun.
Hello, this is Sweets, successful Appalachian Trail through hiker of class 2025. So my advice for you guys would be listen to your body always, especially in the beginning. It will take like 6 to 8 weeks until you have your trail legs, and don't overdo it, and try to stick to your boundaries. And yeah, so my second advice is always have an extra apple in your pocket in case you find a hungry pony on trail. And if you find a German on trail, you have to be nice to it and keep it. Yeah. So I wish everybody in the class of 2026 a wonderful time on trail. Just listen to your body and have the time of your life. Bye-bye.
Hey sunshine, glad to see you made it all the way to Katahdin. That is awesome. Got a nice day here on the Potomac River side down in southern Maryland. Going out for a little morning walk. I've not been hiking much since I finished my journey last middle of August. It's been 5 months since I was sitting at Abel Stream Campground, Abel Bridge Campground, waiting for the right time to go into Baxter State Park and summit Mount Katahdin. Yeah, some of the things I wish I knew before I started. Let's see, there's so many, and so many people say the same ones over and over again. Hike your own hike, don't quit on a bad day, all that fun stuff. But let's see, when you get into Great Smoky Mountain National Forest and you get to the middle there and you want to go down to Gatlinburg, which is super nice. There's shuttles that can bring you down into town. There's, you can get a ride or something like that. You can't really walk down, it's pretty far. That being said, when you get down there, depending on the time of year, you might not be able to get back up. We had a unintended zero in Gatlinburg. We went down and they closed the road on us because of weather the next day, so I was unable to get back on trail and continue my hike. So that can cost you a day, or it can cost you money if you have to stay in town another day that was not planned for. So yeah, that's one thing I'd look out for. Watch the weather. Oh yeah, here's another one. Go to the dentist before you start your hike and not long after you do your hike. Through hiking, your diet is going to be kind of goofy. I ended up having lots of carbs throughout the day, munching on candy all day, maybe every hour, every couple hours. And aside from brushing your teeth every day or twice a day, it's just hard to keep, sugar off your teeth when you're eating it all day. And that's not good for your teeth. So when I got back, I went to the dentist and I ended up having substantial tooth issues. Had to get a couple crowns put in because there was damage done for the hike. I was fine before I went and not so good after the fact. So I don't know what you can do about that, but other than keep an eye on it and do make sure you brush your teeth a couple times a day. And if you're eating candy every hour, maybe rinse afterwards or something to try and keep the sugar off your teeth. Not so good for it. Another thing I think I'll mention is the trail kind of has a cadence where some days it's steep up and steep down and it's relatively equal. and other days it's mostly down, and other days it's mostly up, and sometimes you get some flat and a mix. It varies along the length of the trail, and what you should try to do is take advantage of that. If you're hiking and it's mostly down and it looks like it's going to keep going down, you might want to put an extra few miles in if it's easy to do, because it's not going to get easier. And corollary to that, if you are in a mountainous area and the going is slow, don't push yourself. Wait for a different day to try and put the extra miles in. There's no need to rush or hurry or push yourself. On average, 12 miles a day gets you to Katahdin from Springer in about 6 months. And you know, if you just hike 12 miles a day, that's a mile an hour for 12 miles. Don't hike faster, just hike longer. Don't rush, don't push, and enjoy the ride. That's all I can say. It's going to be an awesome journey. All you new hikers that are excited to get out there, don't rush it. Just kind of enjoy it while you're out there, because it'll be over before you know it. Oh yeah, very important. Keep your toilet paper in your pocket where you can get at it really easily. As you are hiking the trail, your whole internal body biome changes. And you'll have, regular everything. And then you'll get some trail food that you haven't eaten in a long time. Maybe a yummy plate of onion rings or something when you get to Pine Grove Furnace in Pennsylvania at the halfway point. And eat food that you're not used to eating. Sometimes it doesn't want to stay in you very long, and you'll be glad that you have the toilet paper in your pocket and not buried a mile down in your pack. So, yeah, word to the wise. Keep toilet paper immediately available. Not sure if you'll want to use this one or not, but I'll leave it here anyway. Never ever, under any circumstances, ever trust a trail fart.
My name is Gray. My trail name is Scraps. I thru hiked last year, and so some advice I have for future thru hikers would be as simple as it is to have fun and to take the blue blazes, explore the town, stop in the hostels, even if you're not going to stay there. It's a great way you can talk to more people, meet new people, and that's how I met Sunshine for the first time. And you can check out their hiker boxes too. And then go to trail days if you can, really fun. Just don't take yourself too seriously. It's very easy to get just if you have a deadline like I did, it's very easy to just keep thinking about the miles that you have to meet week after week, and it's not so fun. So just take the time and take your time, and don't rush it if you don't have to. Really, just cherish the time that you have out there, I would say. Really lean into the community. It's really fun, and you'll meet some awesome people. So that's kind of all I have to say.
My biggest advice to any 2026 thru hikers or anyone who plans on hiking the AT in the future is to just stay as open and flexible as possible. I originally started my thru hike as a section. I only wanted to go to Damascus. I even had a job lined up in May. I was having such a good time that I called my job. I said, hey, I'm actually going to stay on this trail. Luckily they were really encouraging. I drained all of my savings into this trail, and it was so worth it. I met a lot of people along the trail who really planned out their hike, who, you know, maybe sent themselves boxes before the trail, or had like strict mileage to keep up to be in a specific place on a specific time to meet someone. I would say try not to make any strict deadlines for yourself. Be open. You'll meet people you didn't think you were going to meet, and you'll want to slow down or speed up to be with them. You'll get vortexed in different places. Let yourself. It's part of the journey. Most people only get to do this thing once, if they even ever get to do it. So slow down. Go with the flow. Be open to new experiences. This trail led me to do things that I never thought I would get to do. Meet people I never thought I was going to get to meet. And I feel like I really savored that experience, and the trail just taught me to slow down, be open to what happens next. I don't know, stay safe, but take chances, take risks. Just live it. Just live it, because after it's done, you're gonna be wanting to go back to it all the time. I'm literally counting down the days to my next through hike. So yeah, just enjoy it. You're one of the luckiest people in the world because you get to do such an incredible thing. But yeah, best of luck and happy hiking.
Moon Pie wanted to participate with this but didn't have the time to send a video, so he asked me to read his advice. Moon Pie says, if at all possible, mitigate any time or budget restrictions in your through hike. Those two things can take a lot of enjoyment out of a potentially life-changing adventure. Also, take pictures of the people, not the places. You can always revisit places, but can't go back and relive time spent with the people you meet. A through hike is something you'll remember for the rest of your life. Enjoy the trip deliberately and take the time to soak it all in.
Hey Tribe, two tips that I want to share with the 2026 Appalachian Trail through hikers. So we're gonna build the foundation here. This is a rare one and you don't hear people talk about it a lot. Matter of fact, I don't remember hearing anybody that I trek with really talk about it or on videos, and I've watched thousands of Appalachian Trail videos. And so the first one, and I have my handy dandy notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's why. The first one and the most important one, and this is where we're going to build our foundation, is gratitude. Gratitude. How important is it? First of all, the privilege to hike, because there's so many things that have to come together to be able to actually do a trek like this. This is such a privilege. The money has to be right? And if you have a job, you have to take off, and you have to buy gear, and you have to have the mental fortitude, because just think about it. When you start to look up and you recognize Appalachian Trail, 2,200 miles, some people are done right there. They're like, no, that's too much. And so the mental capacity to even be able to do something like this. So many things have to come together in order for you to do this hike. Gratitude. We're going to build off of gratitude. And so while you are on the trail, be grateful every moment. The people that are going to pour into you on this trek. Trail magic. People that you just see along the way. There's so many people that are going to pour into you on this trail. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. So we're going to start there. That's our foundation. And now we're going to move on to the next one. Now, these next two are super important. They're cliche, but you cannot have this kind of conversation and not talk about these two things. The next thing is mental preparedness, which on my list is top tier, number one. So mental preparedness, mental strength comes from adaptability and flexibility. Let go of how you thought the trail would be and meet the trail as it is. Allow the trail to mold you. Okay, so how are you going to build that mental muscle? One thing that I did, and I think is really good for building mental muscles, is meditation. And so meditation is a discipline, right? And it's something that, you know, how can you sit for 10 minutes without your phone? Can you sit for 10 minutes in the quiet? Meditation is one of those things that will test your mental capabilities. Another thing is, I need for you to do things that are challenging for you. And what I mean by that is, what is that Achilles tendon for you? Is it hiking in the heat? Because I'm going to tell you, we were in 102, 101 degree days. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's going to affect your health in a way, then you may not want to do it. But I do want to say that there are going to be days that you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. Okay, so you need to start to practice those things right now. What do you need to do? Hike in the rain. It's going to rain. Trust that. It's going to probably snow. It sleeted while I was out there, and we had really, really hot days. So I need for you to go out, and I need for you to hike in uncomfortable circumstances. Another thing is, very funny, I did a ice plunge before I left. I only lasted 10 seconds, y'all, okay? But I did it. Give me some credit. That was very uncomfortable for me, but I was able to overcome. I need for you to do things that are very uncomfortable for you. And the last way we're going to build that mental muscle is accept discomfort as a part of this journey, right? Before you even get there, know that there's going to be rain. Know that there's going to be fatigue. Know that there's going to be hunger. Know that there are going to be days where you may not want to hike. And so, whoa! We're building. So we started with gratitude, we went to mental preparedness, and here we are. The next one is plan less, wonder more, save space for spontaneity on trail. Please don't rush the trail. And I know this is something you hear over and over and over again. Please don't rush the trail. The trail unfolds so beautifully when we are in the moment, right? In the present moment. And so that's the thing. When you're in the present moment, so much beauty comes from that. So many miracles come from that. And so don't rush the trail. And the real goal is presence. Presence is the real goal, to be in that moment. Plan every day. There's so much beauty that unfolds from the unknown. Allow your intuitive sense to arise. It will never steer you wrong. This is very casual, but this was one of those things that when I finished, I was like, I'm going to be telling people, when you pass the streams, when you pass the water, soak your feet. You'll thank me later. Soak your feet. And so there were so many times where I would get to a stream and be like, no, I'm not gonna. It wasn't until I got to like the middle of my trek where I started to really appreciate the streams of water. Soak your feet. If you have a question about it, do it. So one, these waters are very healing, not just to the physical body, mind, body, and spirit. They are healing you. And so yes, there's a physical component, and so yes, the waters will bring the inflammation down, bring that swelling. That's one of the beauties of it. But I'm gonna be honest with you, just sitting at that stream and just listening and just feeling that water, your mind and your body, all of it becomes a healing space. So if you have a question about it, soak your feet at the stream. If you don't have a special diet on trail, and I'm a vegan, and so there were some things that obviously I knew I wasn't going to be able to get on trail, and so I had a huge resupply that I put together. If I did it again, another trek, I would not bring as near as much. If you do not have a special diet, you can resupply along the trail, okay? It's a lot less stressful. The other part of it is, when you resupply in town, you get that variety. Whereas if you're doing it at home, you just have the same things. You know, you can switch it up some, but you know what you're getting, and it can get tiring. It's like you just want something different. Yes, there may be 1 or 2 spaces on trail, particularly at the end when you get to Shaw's and you get to Maine. You may want to consider a box or 2, but honestly, don't get too crazy about doing your resupply things at home. The next one is the body keeps score. Okay, the body keeps score, and so take the 0. Take the 0. Your body needs to rest. I don't care what age you are, if you're 20, if you're 50, if you're 60, all in between, it doesn't matter. The injuries come from not resting and not taking zeros. And so if you have a thought about, I'm tired, I don't feel well, I'm feeling kind of fatigued, take the 0. And I'm gonna tell you this, take the 0 anyway. You need the rest. You're going to be out there for a very long time, you know, on trail. And the more zeros you take, if you're not on a time frame, on a timeline, and you have to get back, the more zeros you take, you know, your mind is, you know, that mental capacity is there for you. But oftentimes when we push past our pain, we push past that fatigue, mental fatigue plays a part in it. And so take the 0. Okay, the last thing is something that I also experienced on trail. There are 2 things. When you get to your site, at the end of the day, you've chosen where you want to sleep at. What I'm going to tell you is very important, and I'm going to tell you why. I need for you to check your surroundings. Okay, I need for you to check for loose branches and trees around your surroundings. Why am I telling you this? Because I had the experience of one night getting to my my tent site area, being very tired, putting my tent up and getting in. The next day, I was like, did I hear like a boom? And the whole day I was like, I know I heard some random sound. And so I didn't find out till that next night, that evening. And a friend of mine was like, you know, a tree fell like so close to you that night. And I was like, what? That taught me to check my surroundings. Even if you're tired, check your surroundings. And the last thing is check for ticks. Check for ticks. Please check for ticks. Some of these things are cliche, but they're very real. If you continue to hear something repetitively about the trail, please take caution. Check for ticks. Case in point, my situation. One night, I wasn't checking for ticks for the most part, for the whole trail. One night I got to my tent site. My brother was out with me. We were in Jersey, and we were setting up our tents. And I got into my Durston, and I went to lay down. And something, right, the intuitive side of me said, check for ticks. Mind you, I wasn't checking for ticks. And I found one embedded into my left butt cheek, like inside, and I could not get it out. So I like went over to my brother and was like, hey, you got to get this tick out. Please check for ticks. Please, please, please. There were several people on trail who ended up with Lyme disease. You do not want to be one of them. You have to get antibiotics, and it's a whole thing. So check for ticks. That is my list. We started with what? What did we start with? We started with gratitude. Look, that's your foundation. That's where you need to start from. This is a privilege to hike, okay? Hi Viz, signing out. Love and hike.
Hello, my name is To Go. I hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2025, and my advice to hikers looking to hike this year in 2026 would be to remember you're out there to have fun, number one. Don't be afraid to take blue blazes, and take those rest days. It's very important. Let your body rest, let your mind rest, and reset before you get back out on the trail. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, my trail name is Saint, S-A-I-N-T, and I'm proud to be a successful thru hiker from the class of 2025, completing the Appalachian Trail northbound from Amicaloil Falls, across Springer Mountain, of course, to Katahdin and summiting Baxter Peak. So, great experience, And so the question is, what advice would I give myself or others that want to do the same? And first of all, I find that the people that succeed or tend to succeed on the Appalachian Trail, the ones that get past mile 500 are most likely to make it all the way. And the ones that do that handle adversity well, weather extremes, temperature extremes, and things like that, but also have a positive attitude. So the successful through hiking community is a group that has a very positive outlook. And I think that's very important. Now, of course, you've probably heard the adage, hike your own hike. And that means, you decide what's important to you, what your goals are, what your pace is, things along those lines. So, no matter what advice you get to pick and choose and, decide what your hike looks like, which won't look like everybody else's hike necessarily. So one of the things that would have been helpful for me to focus on better was my food carry. And I had a challenge where I carried too much food. And I got better. I never was perfect, but I did get better at planning food and trying to carry just what I needed to get to the next resupply. So it does take some advanced planning and knowing what you think your pace is going to be, how many days away you are from a resupply, and having enough food. Those are some things that I wish I knew to plan better from day one. When I think back, I think, wow, that went pretty quick, even though it took 6 months. And but just know, one step at a time, you will get there. The trail, the entirety of the trail is not for everyone. I hope it is for you. In closing, I have one more piece of advice. And I had the good fortune of hiking with Sunshine a few times on the trail. And she actually got to see this. There was a tree down across the trail. I chose to go over it. She chose to go safely around it. And it was a pretty sizable tree trunk across the trail. I was going to do the sit and swing over method. And when I swung my leg over to straddle and move to the other side, I realized my toes were not touching the ground. And I lost my balance and I went over backwards and landed on my back. But fortunately, my back has a backpack, and so I didn't sustain any injuries or anything like that, but more bruise of the ego, perhaps. And Sunshine was a witness of that particular mistake. So my advice, don't do that. So that's all I've got. If you're deciding to through hike, I hope you make it. I hope you enjoy it. And good luck.
Hey guys, I'm Mito. I thru hiked in 2025. My first piece of advice is something I learned from a thru hiker my first couple days on trail. I asked him what his advice would be for a thru hiker this year. And he was like, let me get back to you. And waited like 24 hours to come up with this piece of advice. And what he said was to take the side quest. And I think I really kind of took that to heart for the rest of the hike. And if there's any time there was something that I was like, maybe I want to do that, I said, well, let's take the side quest. And we did. Maybe it was a hostel or town or a blue blaze, and maybe it didn't always make sense, but I think I had a lot of fun extra adventures by keeping that in mind throughout the hike. I think my second piece of advice, a lot of people talk about hike your own hike, and I think there's some really wise truth in that. But one of the things I realized throughout my hike is that what my own hike meant to me was making some sacrifices or choices that maybe I wouldn't make on my own, but that were worth it because I had chosen the people that I wanted to be around. And I think sometimes that can be the right choice. So do hike your own hike, but there's more nuance to that than maybe we initially let on. And then I think the last thing I'll say is the hardest part for me was having this dream and actually putting it into action and saying, this is the time and the place in my life where I'm going to put a pause on everything else and go and live in the woods for 6 months. And so if you've already made that choice and you're on the path there, then I think you've done the hardest part. And really, the rest of it, just have a blast. And, sing in the rain. That's it. Bye.
Hello friends, this is Heisenberg, or you might know me as Daniel, back in the real world. Here for a few tips and thoughts about hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I wanted to put this in perspective of 3 different mindsets, specifically mind, body, and spirit. You will find on the trail these 3 attributes for sure. I want to give you 3 tips through that frame set. We'll start with the body. So no doubt, hiking the trail, whether you're doing a section or a through hike, is a physical endeavor, no doubt about it. A couple of the things I might have done just a pinch different. When I did the trail, I kind of went from so-called couch to the trail. Even though I'd done section hikes and long distance hikes before, it would behoove you to do a little bit of leg work, get on that treadmill. If you've got availability to it, maybe get a weighted vest and go jump on the stair climbers for an hour a day. That would definitely get you primed. One thing that would also be helpful would be to really double down on some yoga and mobility, even if it's just something simple like getting into that pigeon pose, some downward dogs, even baby pose, whatever would be helpful to you. Because what's going to happen, even if you're somewhat flexible going into it, it's like you will want to tighten up. Those glutes, those hamstrings, those calves, everything will be tight on a day-to-day basis. So if you can kind of work on that, getting that limberness going into the trail, and then maintaining that throughout the trail, and then on the back side, that would definitely be beneficial. So that's the body side. From the mind side, at some point in time, if you do a through hike, you're going to want to quit. There will be a moment, you will have a time and space where you're going to want to really nope, I'm done. You need to have a game plan for that. What's your why? Okay, why are you doing this? Really put that in perspective. And then my friend Zen and Fraggle, I got to give them credit for it. It's like, if you really get to that point, man, take a 0, take 2 zeros. What's your number of days you're going to take off? And then at the end of those number of days, if you still want to quit, maybe you want to call it. So kind of have a game plan for that. And then lastly, from the spirit standpoint, whatever you want to call this, the trail is a wonderful community. It is a vibe. It is a vibration. If you want to call it God, if you want to call it Mother Nature, Gaia, if you want to look at it through a scientific perspective of saying that we live in multiple universes and we're just part of the string theory, and that energy can't be created or destroyed, you're going to create that vibe on the trail. You're going to draw to you what you naturally see through that universe, through that lens, reflecting back upon yourself. So if you're going into this and looking for a positive vibe, you're going to find a positive vibe. If you're a negative Nelly, you're going to find some negative Nelly, and that's going to reflect back on you. What kind of lessons do you think you're going to learn on the trail? And have an open mindset about that. And lastly, post-trail depression, dude, that's a thing. So kind of have that in mind, whenever you're in that car ride, on that train ride back home, what kind of friends are that positive vibe that can kind of help you out? That keep getting back out in nature, keep moving, because it's like whenever you going day to day moving, you're getting those dopamine hits. You got to have some sort of positive, useful dopamine whenever you get back in the world. Number 1, don't overthink it. The trail's going to provide, guaranteed. On that note, it is helpful to maybe have a shakedown hike. You'll hear about that. But there's also people out there that just kind of showed up and did it, figured it out as they went. Kind of like life. Part 2, magnesium is a super helpful supplement. Take it with dinner, and it helps out with clearing the lactic acid out of the legs, helps you sleep better. Total game changer. 3rd, journal. I'm a big fan of journaling. Kind of hard to lug around a big heavy journal with you. Recommend downloading an app called Day One. Go ahead and buy the upgrade. That'll give you access to do audio logs. So you're gonna sit down in the tent at the end of the night man, this happened. You're not going to feel like typing it. I guarantee you. I know I didn't. But with this app, you can log your pictures by day, puts a date and time stamp on it in a little calendar form. You can do some audio files, and might give you some insight into life. And it makes a lovely little record of your journey. So I wish everyone the best. Peace, love, and blessings. And I hope to see you on the trail.
My name's Hillary. I am NOBO class of 2025, and my trail name was Butterfly. The advice that I would give any new thru hiker would be, number one, once you've tested your gear, you know what works for you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The first 2 weeks of the hike or so, I had so many people say, why did you choose that? It's never gonna work. You're never gonna make it. I didn't let that get to me. If anything, it helped motivate me. I finished fine. My gear was fine. The second piece of advice would be make the impulsive decision to stop somewhere you weren't expecting, whether it's at some random campsite or a hostel. Those were some of my best memories on trail, and I feel like that's what's going to stick with me the longest. The third piece of advice would be actually from a former thru hiker. He gave me this advice. Keep a journal. It'll be nice to look back on. Keep your memories. He had told me that was his biggest regret, was not keeping a journal. So keep a journal. Above all, good luck, have fun, embrace the suck, and embrace the sweat.
Class of 2026, greetings. Real quick, I am Atlas, and I thru hiked the AT last year over 179 days, starting March 24th from Amicalola Falls, and I summited Katahdin September 18th. All right, that's enough about me. It's 2026 now. 2025 is history. It's old news. I'm old news. This is about you now. First off, congratulations. You're doing this. You're already a part of a group of doers. I wonder just how many people say they're going to hike the Appalachian Trail but never actually take a step to do it. You've got the gear, you've researched, you've trained, you already put in more effort than you might realize, so congratulate yourself on already being a doer. Now, I am so jealous that you are in fact starting this trek, or maybe you've already started. I want to be out there so bad. I miss it every single day. Enjoy it as much as you can, because it really does go by so quick. In a week and a half, you'll be in Georgia, then halfway through Virginia. I just realized there's some deer behind me. Then you'll be deli blazing in Jersey. Then you'll be hitting the mountains of Vermont. And then you'll be in Maine. And it went by so quick. How did it happen? You're not ready for it to be over. Will there be difficult moments in between? Yes. Will it rain for 3 days straight and you're soaked and you don't even try to avoid the 3-inch puddles on the trail? Yep. But then will you be hitting a town that day or maybe the next with some of the best people you've ever met, then eating tacos and drinking margaritas and laughing about the storms and the puddles? God, I hope so. Drink one for me. Will you get blindsided by norovirus, lose your trail family, and then the moment you get back on trail, you reunite with another awesome group you haven't seen in weeks, possibly? Will you suffer an injury that knocks you off trail for 5 days, you lose your trail family again, then when you come back on trail, it's suddenly no longer beautiful late spring, but instead peak summer, 100 degrees, humid as it can be. Actually, I really hope not for you, but it happened to me. The point I'm trying to make metaphorically is there will be peaks and there will be valleys. The fun thing is when you wake up in your tent or the shelter or hostel, you don't really know what the day holds for you. Hopefully more peaks than valleys, but when those valleys come, know there is a peak waiting, and it doesn't take long for it to show itself again. I promise. Everyone says don't quit on a bad day, and that's true-ish. But But as long as you truly want this, you truly want to be out here, you can't have a bad day. It's not possible. I could say I did not have a bad day in my 179 days on trail because I wanted it. Even when I had noro, it wasn't a bad day. And man, do I want to do this hike again. So, for yourself now, please enjoy the trail and your adventure. Happy trails, class of 2026.
Hey everybody, it's Roadhog here. Sunshine asked me to give my top advice for people that want to hike the Appalachian Trail. My advice is really simple. It's smiles, not miles. You have to have fun while you're out there. You have to enjoy yourself and enjoy the company of the awesome people that you're going to be around. Don't let yourself get too focused on just the miles. Ultimately, the good times are what will give you the good miles. So stay focused on that. Smiles, not miles.
Hey guys, it's Backcountry Ben, also known as Chili Powder on the trail. I'm a class of 2025 from Georgia to Maine, made it all the way. And here's some of my tips and advice after completing the trail that I wish I would have known. First off, this is a mistake I made, a mistake a lot of people make. Don't go more than 10 miles your first week, 10 miles a day that is. If you do, you probably will regret it. If you've done some training beforehand, that's fine. You know your limits at that point. But for me, we felt great. Me and my roommate Gunk, we started off feeling great. We did 8 miles both the first and second day. The third day, we decided we felt great and we were just gonna keep on pushing over Blood Mountain. We did 16 miles on our third day and it completely wrecked us. Next day we did 1 mile. Because of how bad our blisters were, because of how sore our muscles were. It's not just about muscles, like your body's not used to this and it's gonna have to get used to it for the next 4 months. You'll have plenty of time to make up those miles. Don't worry about it. That's a pretty standard rule. I talked to lots of people that said either they did that and they felt great, or they didn't do that and they felt horrible. So there's very few people that can do more than 10 miles a day for your first week. Don't get caught up in mileage. You're gonna do fine. My second piece of advice is dehydrate your own food. We did this with taco meat. It's super simple. You can probably find a dehydrator for $10 to $15 and it'll pay for itself. The food that you can make is so much better than anything you'll find in any of the mountain houses, any of the dehydrated meals that you can find. We were able to have tacos for the first 8 days of our trail, and that was just great, having good, nutritious food. You can also do it in an oven. Just be careful because it's an oven, so things can catch on fire. And on that note, it's really hard to get your calories in. Your body's not used to having to eat this much. Your stomach's not that big. You'll get used to it after a month or two, but you're gonna have to put in 3,000 to 4,000 calories to keep yourself from getting sick. And I lost 10 pounds within the first month. I don't really have 10 pounds to lose. I looked in the mirror before the Smokies and I was pretty malnourished. I was pretty skinny. You could see my ribs already and I wasn't even like a quarter of the way through. So keep that in mind. Get your calories in however you need to. It's best to have a well-balanced diet, but if you need to, just stack on those little Debbies. They're not the greatest for you, but it's sugar, it's carbs, you'll burn it, you'll be fine. Another one is keep an open mind about your shoes. You're probably not gonna start with the shoes you're gonna finish with. You're gonna find a set of shoes eventually that you're gonna just keep buying because they work. Go to Outdoor 76 in Franklin. They helped my roommate Gunk find the shoes for him. He's always been against Hoka's, but he needed the support and he needed someone to tell him that knew what they were talking about. These guys know what they're talking about. They've seen plenty of people finish and not finish. They know what shoes do to your feet. They know how it's gonna affect. You just tell them what your issues are. At any outfitter, usually they'll know what they're talking about when it comes to shoes. They probably know more about shoes than you do. Let's be honest. The trail's a good teacher of saying goodbye. You'll have to say goodbye to people all the time, and you might never see them again, or you might not see them for another 1,000 miles. Don't be afraid to say goodbye. It's fine. You're gonna have plenty of experiences where you have to leave a spot that you like, or you have to leave a tree on the way that you like. That's okay. Just accept it and move on and make the best of it. And if you're seriously considering quitting, go into town, take a couple days to yourself, do whatever luxuries you need to do, eat whatever food you need to eat, and you'll realize after a couple days that you don't really want to quit. If you do still want to quit, that's fine. There's no shame in it. You're completely fine. You did something and you attempted something that a lot of people will never try in their life. And that's a valiant effort. But it would really suck for you to quit and then a month later regret that you quit and want to go back out. And you've already spent all this money on transportation and finding a new job. Just make sure that's what you want. And another thing is, it's gonna suck. You're gonna get wet. You're gonna get soaked. You're probably not gonna be able to dry out for a couple days at a time. The AT is very wet. If you've done any research, you'll understand that there's a lot of rain. With that being said, you kind of just have to accept it. It's gonna make those good days so much better. It's gonna make you love those dry, hot days, even though you're sweating like crazy. But part of the trail is just sucking it up. You're not gonna make it to the end if you don't figure out how you can get through things and realizing things are temporary. But anyway, happy trails. I hope you guys enjoy your hike, and hope to see you in the class of 2026.
Hi, I'm Mr. Cheese. If I had one piece of advice for new AT thru hikers, I would say, just say yes. And you might think that's crazy because you're already doing something that most people will look at you funny when you tell them that you're doing it. But you would be really surprised how many people I knew that they drew the line at they're already hiking 2,000 miles in the woods, but they're like, oh no, I'm not going to go to that place. I'm not going to do that thing. I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to talk to this person. Sorry, I'm going inside my house. Oh, say hi to go. Hi. I met them on the trail. Now we're roommates. But yeah, just say yes. Just do anything and everything that you never thought you would do. Because even if it goes terribly and you regret it, it's going to be a really funny story, and you will be still laughing with those people, fingers crossed, for a long time to come. So just do it. Okay, thank you.
Hello there. My name is Fail, and I did the trail last year. I got a couple bits of advice that I think might have helped me along when I was doing the trail. One of the things I heard a lot was that you always need to journal and take photos and all that stuff so you don't forget it, which is super helpful. But one thing I found helped me quite a lot is throughout the day, if something happened that was just notable enough that I'd like to remember it sometime in the future, I just pull up my phone and jot down like a really quick note. For example, just like met sunshine or saw waterfall. And that way, when I got around to actually filling in a journal entry about that thing, I would have some stuff to remember in case I would have forgotten it later. Like you take a picture of somebody and you're like, oh, there's a person. You just like write their name down or something. Just enough that later on, either whenever you do your journal that week, that night, whatever, you have a little bit of something to help jog your memory on the cool things that happened. Another thing that I found personally pretty helpful was always wearing really bright colors. Bright colors on your gear, something to like personalize it. Like, I don't know if you want to like put string on it or a ribbon or put some, actually a big one is stickers. Some kind of like something personal so you can see your stuff to separate it from everybody else's. Because lots of people out there have black puffies. Lots of people out there have whatever backpack you're using or the food bag you're using. Like generic blue DCF food bag, extremely common. Blue DCF food bag with a pink sticker on it, less common. Makes it easier to tell things apart, find your stuff when you just need to get your stuff out of a huge pile of people's food bags in the bear box or whatever. Just found that to be pretty handy. But then probably the most important piece of advice that I didn't follow and ultimately led to a lot of pain was if something starts hurting early, such as in like Georgia or North Carolina, like if your foot starts hurting or your knee starts hurting or something along those lines, take care of it early and often. Like those little problems might not be so little by the time you make it to like Pennsylvania or New York or wherever. So bring a massage ball or like a roller for your trekking pole and just religiously work those muscles out each night and stretch and whatnot just to keep yourself healthy. It is very, very easy for something to build up, and if you get lax with working out your muscles and stretching things out and rolling them out when they're injured, it can turn from something that's just uncomfortable to something that's excruciating. And as somebody with personal experience of hiking hundreds and hundreds of miles with leg pain, it's definitely better if you can get on top of that early. So recommend that you always listen to your body and take care of it as fast as you can. But yeah, good luck out there, guys. And my light just went off. It's spooky. Stuff happens. You get to learn to roll with it.
Hello, my name is Mountain Dew, and I'm a thru hiker from 2025. I think if I had any advice for future thru hikers, I would say, like, don't stress about your equipment. It's gonna be fine. Like, if something breaks, like, you can just ask somebody on the trail for like help or something. Like, it'll be okay. And honestly, I would say just like try to make friends and talk to other people, because you'll meet really cool people out in the woods. Appalachian Trail is a lot more social than I realized when I started hiking it. And yeah, have a good time.
So my number one advice is to take advice with a grain of salt. Yes, that's my number one advice in my video about taking advice, but it's true. Just like every thru hiker is different, every thru hike is different. Every year has its own challenges or things that make it different. So just because we have successfully completed a thru hike does not make us experts in everything. So obviously take it with a grain of salt. Discern each piece of advice that's given to you and ask yourself, how does this apply to me? Does this apply to me? Don't be stubborn. Some of the advice given in today's video could be a game changer for your thru hike. It could make a world of difference, or even if it just makes something a little bit better or easier, that is worth it. But obviously at the end of the day, you have your own discernment and your own experience. So don't ever feel like you have to listen to somebody just because they did a thru hike. There's advice before my thru hike that I was given that I could put in any category. There's advice that I'm really glad that I took. For example, I had posted my gear video and actually a few people recommended getting the Canuck bag for water. My friends all called it the Canuck bag, but that was a game changer for me. I'm very glad I took that advice. Very thankful. There's other advice that I'm glad I didn't take. After my gear video, some people had made comments about that I was going to regret bringing my little pocket Bible. They're like, you're never going to use that. Okay, well, I did every day, and I'm really glad that I had it. There's advice that I wish I would have taken that I didn't. I distinctly remember a few people making a comment about me being cold and advising me to swap out my 20-degree sleeping bag for a 0-degree sleeping bag, and I didn't. I just kept thinking that, oh, it's just cold right now, it'll get warmer, and not wanting to spend the extra money. But I that's something in hindsight I really wish that I would have listened to. So, take that advice with a grain of salt. But also, don't be afraid to listen to the advice, because there are things that had I listened to, it would have made my hike easier. But, you know, we know sometimes you got to figure these things out ourselves. But don't ever let anybody in the thru hiking community, most of the time we are super helpful, positive people, but sometimes on these forums, I'm sure you've noticed, sometimes people can get almost a little bullyish with their opinions about gear and stuff specifically, or just best practices. Whenever you hear somebody say, well, nobody does that, just tune them out. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Hearing people say, well, nobody does this, nobody does that. How do you know? You know, I hear the comment all the time, nobody hangs a food bag after the Smokies. Okay, well, I must be nobody and my friends must be nobody, because we all did long after the Smokies. So, you know, just there's no way for anybody to make that comment that nobody does this. I heard nobody sends boxes. Don't make your own food and send your boxes. Well, I did, and it worked great for me for my whole hike. So, you know, use discernment, take it with a grain of salt, find the advice that is best for you and that is going to help you. Don't be afraid to make last minute changes. You know, I know how frustrating it is when you feel like you finally have your gear all set and you're like, yes, check, I'm done, because we know that's a hard thing. And then it can be, you know, maybe it's like a month before your hike and you get that last minute advice. Like for me, it was getting that Canuck bag and I was like, but I did it. And I'm so thankful that I did. So don't be afraid to make last minute changes. You're probably most likely going to be making changes anyways on your hike. So why not do it beforehand and have it all dialed in? Get far out. Yes, it is my opinion. Yes, you can absolutely make it all the way to Katahdin without the Far Out app, but I highly recommend it. It was definitely a life-changing thing for me. Perhaps even a life-saving things at times. There were plenty of times when the trail was not marked adequately and I had to rely on the app, on the GPS function to make sure I was on the trail. And that works without data, so that was super helpful. The comments section of the Thru app is in and of itself, that makes the value worth it. Especially during times like when we were in the middle of a drought, I relied on that heavily to know where the water sources were dried out or where they were flowing. Also information about water caches. I will give one advice, make sure that you are paying attention to the date of the comments. I did get in trouble with that a couple of times where I was looking for a stealth site and was just being sloppy and didn't pay attention to the dates. Thought I was going to be able to stay at the stealth site and I got there and it's like, it was not happening. And then I looked back and the comment that I was referring to was like 4 or 5 years old. So unfortunately, in the world of thru hiking, those comments are really only valuable and useful for a year or two, but they are valuable and useful. It's too late for this year's hike, but in future years, if you are planning on getting the Far Out subscription and you don't already have it, they do have a Black Friday sale. So highly recommend doing that if you can. Bookmark the atweather.org site on your phone like right now. You probably know this. It's kind of common sense, but the weather in the mountains is going to be drastically different than the weather in the town below you. So, you know, the weather forecast, if you're just looking at a traditional weather app for a town you're in, is pretty useless. atweather.org is going to give you a lot more accurate weather based on the elevation of shelters along the way. You're not going to have that hourly forecast that we're all so used to, but definitely utilize that. Make a bucket list. I did that and it was one of my favorite things that I did. I made a video about that if you want to check it out on my channel, but it just really helped me stay motivated and not get discouraged about how big the trail was and how long it took and how far away Maine seemed at times. Because if I had something to look forward to within the next 100 miles and it was like, I didn't have to worry about how far away Maine was, I could just focus on that next goal, taking off little chunks rather than trying to bite off the whole thing. Really, really helpful. And lastly, and I know this might seem overstated, but really it's understated. Mindset. You have to have a positive mindset going into this, and you have to renew that positive mindset daily, sometimes multiple times daily. All the other advice that we can give, you know, anyone can make it to Katahdin regardless of their gear. You know, you can make it to Katahdin wearing blue jeans. You can make it to Katahdin with big old clunky boots. You can make it to Katahdin with a 45-pound backpack. I could go on and on. You can make it to Katahdin with Walmart gear. I really don't think that you can make it to Katahdin without a positive mindset. And if you do, you're going to be miserable. So why bother? Are you going to be positive every day? Of course not. Of course not. That's unrealistic. You're going to be going through really tough things. You're going to be freezing cold. You're going to be horribly hot. You're going to be wet from multiple days of rain. You know, you're going to be hungry. You're going to be lonely. You're going to be exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally. You might be battling blisters or shin splints. You know, I could go on and on, but if you can keep that positive mindset, remember why you're out there, focus on the end goal, you can do this. You've got this. We're all here for you. We're rooting for you. Like I said earlier, can't wait to see those summit pics.